a joke. I want a raise. Okay, so I actually do this lecture all over the country, and I actually debuted it in Blackpool, England, this past February. So let's talk about how I use lean and continuous improvement to take an act that was absolutely awful and get it to the point where it's a classic of magic right now. And I don't know if any of you know this, but I was selected among 150 magicians from 46 countries all around the world to represent the United States of America as the lead magician from the Americas to go to Korea and compete for the World Championship. So that'll be in July. So one of the things that I wanted to do, besides be a world champion, is I needed to understand how to do that. And when I got hired by Whirlpool, I had no idea that Whirlpool was going to tell me and give me the roadmap of how to do that. And but I didn't know the lingo of CI and lean. But however, as you can see, I'm already a theater major, so adoption is closer than you think. So what I did is I took all of the theater knowledge that I know, because I am a theater major and a directing major, and I applied all of the techniques that I already have and adapted them into lean. So there's Whirlpool Corporation, but there's some people here that were very key. PJ Schaffnitz, Ken Kleinhampel, and Kelsey Clem. Now, Ken is only bigger because his picture was the biggest on the internet. True story. But everybody really did contribute to this. You're welcome, Ken. But PJ was my first introduction to lean, and he's doing classes here. And believe me, between him and Kelsey, these guys really know their stuff. And if I can apply the techniques that they taught me to a magic show, think of what they can do to your business. So, how I adopted the knowledge that I already have. So when I'm talking about lean and CI, I'm only using the very high-level basic principles because I'm only one person. Doing a Kaizen event with me would be absolutely ridiculous. So I decided to just stay really, really high and just do the basics, because the basics for me were pretty easy. So direct observation, I just needed a director and an audience. You guys are an audience, and I brought in a director or two. 8D. 8D is basically problem solving. All the problems that you saw here on stage, all the magic, is literally a problem. How do I make a skull appear out of a book? How do I make things multiply in a mirror? All problems. Lighting is a problem. Effects are a problem. Waist walking. Oh, that was, by the way, that 8D, that's the 8 disciplines of problem solving. I threw that description in there for PJ just so you knew that I knew what I was talking about. Waist walk. Waist walk is choreography and blocking. Choreography and blocking is, there's nothing worse than you see an actor pacing all over the stage, because you're just wandering all over the place. So if you can stay planted, it means the person has confidence and knows what they're doing. So I had to waist walk my act over and over and over. 5S. Everything that you see on this stage, I built. I was never a builder before, and I've built 3 of these books because they needed to be continuously improved. Because the first ones were like this big, and this, now they're really compact. And this one smokes, which is pretty cool. So, but in order to rapid prototype in my workshop, I had to clean up my workshop. So we're going to cover how I did all of this. There's rapid prototyping, process mapping, building my story. I built my story just like we do here at Whirlpool when we do process mapping. Reflection. I don't do an after-action review. I just ask people, what'd you think? Good enough for me. All right, write that down. And if sometimes I get a write-up, but usually write-ups in magazines are always really positive. PFMEA. Can you PFMEA a magic show? You bet you can, and I'll show you how I do it. So, you have to start somewhere. Current state versus ideal state. And this is what I am at the very beginning, and you have to take an honest assessment of yourself. And believe me, when you see what I'm going to show you, it's a very honest assessment. versus the ideal state, what I want. So, I did not wait for perfection. There's a lot of friends of mine who claim to be entrepreneurs and they say, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they wait and wait and wait for the right time, the right moment, to have all their ducks in a line before they even start. I was brave enough to go in front of the world of magic with an act that wasn't fully developed, that actually stunk, fall flat on my face, and come back 3 years later and sweep the competition. So this is what the act looked like that you just saw. It started from this. Now, they say every move is a picture. It's an old vaudevillian thing. Every move, a picture. I don't think I would hang any one of those pictures anywhere. So what I did, which was really interesting because I needed to perfect my act, I needed it to be entertaining. I didn't want it just to be magician appearing tonight. I wanted to have Stuart MacDonald appearing tonight. Magician is just anybody. So that's just a magician. So what I did is I videotaped my show over and over and over, and then I would close my eyes and I would just take random stills of my act, seriously, over and over and over, and I would find out if there was any moment in the act where I could kind of tell what was going on just from the picture. Can any of you tell what's going on in any one of these pictures? I think I'm having a coronary in the middle one. And there I am grabbing my heart in the last one. So yeah, I died on stage. So I wanted this to be my future state. So I had to find guys that were better than me to look up to. I didn't want to copy their acts, but what I wanted to do was deconstruct their acts, get into their heads. They didn't even know that I was doing this. And I picked Lance Burton. He won the World Championships back in 1982, and he went on to be one of Las Vegas's biggest acts, and he had 2 TV specials, and now he's retired and a huge millionaire. Why wouldn't I want to be like that guy? This guy, Voronin, you've never heard of, he's from the Ukraine, and he is probably the funniest guy you'll ever see on stage. One of the things that he does is when they announce his name, he walks across the stage with this really slow music, and he's just walking and walking and walking. You see how his character is just full profile, and he keeps walking. And once he gets past center stage, the audience is dying laughing because he just keeps walking off stage. And then stagehands are pushing him back on stage, and they go, "There's the audience," and he's like, "Oh, hello," and that's it. It's hilarious. So I chose Voronin. And something interesting happened along the way that with these 2 guys and we intersected. And it was just an amazing thing. So FISM, the International Federation of Magic Societies, the World Championships. 2014, I decided I wanted to go to Italy. I wanted to represent the United States. So I went to the World Qualifications, and I had an awful disaster. The act was good. It was well rehearsed. It was audience tested. I performed it everywhere, and the costuming was good. The set was good. The music was good, and I did it all by myself. And you've heard the term lone wolf. Well, I didn't know that these guys would be there. All these Koreans swept every award. And the guy in the top corner here, he's called the Rewind Act. He went on right before me and he won the whole thing. He actually did his show fast. He did it in forward, and he was producing cards. The cards were falling on the floor. And then he hit reverse. There was a big reverse button on stage. He hit reverse and he did the entire act in fast reverse. The cards that that fell on the floor leaped up to his hand and then went back in the box and then flew back into his pocket. And then I followed him. With that act. That really horrible act. So, the bad. I had no idea how tough they would be. The act was a disaster. I had a prop failure and a poorly designed story and character. So I had to examine this disaster. What I needed to do was do some quick fixes. Now, this is before I got hired at Whirlpool. I didn't know I was doing a low-level 8D. Looking back on it, I was. So I did reflection, observation, and a waist walk. And in my mind, I just needed to build a better story and build a better character, so I had a new goal. 30 days after that competition, there was the TAOM, which is the Texas Association of Magicians, the second largest contest in the country. And after 30 days of hours and hours and hours and hours, I won the first place, and in 15 years, they'd never given an award called Best of Convention, and that's the new character, a brown-suited guy, and the unintentional benefit of that hard work was that Best of Convention. So, how did I get to that? I just needed one big change, and the big change was this purple guy. He was terrible. Nobody knew who the heck he was. Now, prior to this contest, I always was asking people, what did you think of the act? What did you think? And they were, everybody was saying it was wonderful, it was wonderful. But I had to change the question. And as soon as I changed the question, what bothered you, I got a laundry list of terrible things. So asking the right question really did benefit me. So the answer was, the purple suit was confusing. So I changed it to this guy. Now, the purple suit cost me $400. I bought this at Goodwill for $7. So I had to call that R&D, research and development. It's very expensive, as we know. Direct observation. Direction was needed. I was a lone wolf. Without direction, I couldn't advance. So I asked for help. How many times does PJ say, always ask for help? Find people who are smarter than you or who have more experience. And that's what I did. So it's name dropping time. Now, I'm not trying to be egotistical. There's going to be a lot of name dropping in this, but a lot of anecdotal stuff. All these people contributed to the act that you see here. And I call my act, when everybody says, oh, it's great, you did it, Stu. And I'm like, no, I'm just the tip of a very long spear. And a long spear of ideas and influences. But I want to talk about this guy. Tobin Ost. He's a customer and a supplier. He was a customer, now he's a supplier. How many of you know who Tobin Ost is? Nobody, right? Okay, so he is probably the hottest guy on Broadway. Those are his credits. He is the Tony-nominated production designer for Newsies, and that's the set that he designed that's on tour right now. So how do I know him? He grew up in my hometown, and I said, I needed help. I figured, let's reach for the top. Let's find out if this guy will even answer my Facebook post. So I said, Tobin, I want to go to the World Championships of Magic. Will you help me out? Literally, that's all I said. He immediately called me up on the phone, and I was floored. True story, floored. I'm like, Tobin, are you okay? And he said, I want to help you out, and I want to tell you a story. Think of this. When he was in the 5th grade, I was doing his elementary school show. I called him up on stage to do the cut and restored rope. He was the kid, and because of me, I gave him the first interest in theater, and he said, I want to pay that back to you. Just out of random. Isn't that weird? So he's been in my corner ever since, and he's helped production design all of this just because I was really kind to this little kid. So be kind to children, but be kind to your customers, right? Because your customers sometimes can be a supplier of great information. So process mapping, better storytelling. Mapping my act, this is now you can see the influence of PJ, right? Mapping my act exposed the flaws and wasteful action and helped speed up rehearsals. Now, I remember when I did process mapping, I went home that night and I did this. Those are magic tricks of this act. That's what this act looks like on my wall. And the parking lot of those two that don't belong are just ideas. Those are things that I just want to put in. So what I could do, and this was really cool, I could offline edit my act. I could take pieces out and put them back in other places, and then I'd say, okay, does that work? And then I would rehearse that iteration, and I'd go, no, that doesn't work. And then I would rewind it and put different Post-it notes in different places. And soon, the story started unfolding, but I could see it linearly. So that was pretty cool. So if you have a process that needs to be leaned, use this. It's a great tool. I needed to clean up my workspace because I needed to build props very, very quickly because the competition was coming. So, you all know what 5S is? Clean up your space. Basically, really all I needed to do was clean up my space. I didn't do all these, but you'll see why. Because when I started in 2013, that's what my prop table looked like for building stuff. By 2015, it looked like this. And then I decided Tower of Stuff 2016. Thank you, PJ. Rapid prototyping, prop building. The only prop that I can show you in process is this table. There it is. I built that in my garage. Now there's an interesting thing about this table. I had a smaller table that weighed twice as much, but, and this is from lean manufacturing, it took 2 tools to put together and was 8 screws, and all the screws were hex nut screws. So I had to have a small drill to put this thing together. This table, no screws, and actually it's totally toolless. There's no tools at all to put this thing together, and it fits into a suitcase and weighs half as much as my old table. See? Magnets. Just magnets. Awesome. All right, so there you go. Now we're going to talk about Timwood. How did I apply Timwood here? Transportation, inventory, motion, weighting, overprocessing, overproduction, and defects. So transportation is prop movement. How did I get all these props to move slowly? Now let me tell you, let's just go back for a second. When I walked out on stage, I had a candle, put the candle down, and then a fly started buzzing around, and then my wand turned into the key. The key opened the book, and the book just made the wand reappear. And then the wand took my glasses, and then the wand and soap disappeared, and I referred back to the book. And so everything was flowing, just like a fish in water. Inventory, the number of tricks and effects. I can't tell you how many effects and tricks that I've built and thrown away for this act. Motion, my movement on stage. Everything that I do is calculated. Waiting, how long does the audience wait? I have to put myself in your place to make sure that you're not going, when is this thing going to end? When is he going to do the next trick? I have to think like that. Overprocessing, repeating effects. You don't want to see the same thing twice. Overproduction, too much of everything. Can you imagine if I had fog and crazy lights and all this? This is a very intimate act. So I want to really emphasize keeping things simple. When the act started, that's the back of a sign. And all the sign did was flip down and say, sold. That's it. And it's very complicated. And that's what the inside of my jacket used to look like. Don't tell anybody. My jacket doesn't look like that anymore. Defects, take out tricks that don't move the act forward. So here's my PFMEA. You'll love this. That is called the floating cane, the dancing cane. That was the first trick in my, my act when I competed for the first time. And as you can see, it's floating madly all over the stage. Nope, that's only 8 inches from my hand because when the curtain opened, the curtain bumped the prop, which tangled the string. Yes, there is a string. And it got all wound up, and it was the beginning of my act, and it was a beautiful effect. And in the end, it disappeared and turned into 2 silks, and all I could do was make it just hang from my hand. It was awful. And then right after the repeat guy, I was practically booed off stage. So, did the dancing cane move my act forward? I had to answer, no. That's 5. That's a high mark. Failure rate, high, medium, moderate, low. Moderate. It doesn't fail that often, because the only thing that fails is that if the string gets tangled. Hardly ever happens. If it's in the opening of my show and it fails, holy crap, the audience is not on my side. If it's in the middle, I can kind of recover. If it's at the closing, it's the last thing they remember. The dancing cane just going like this. Not very funny. So, my total PFMEA rating out of 15 was 13. Chucked it. So that's how I figured it all out. Now, before I get into this slide, we're going to do an experiment. We're going to lean a trick out in front of all of you to show you how my mind thinks. And I need a volunteer to help me out. Ann, would you like to come up and help me out? Come on up. All right. Come on up, Ann. I think you know where the stage is. This right here. All right. Here we go. I want to do this quick because I know it's all getting late. It's getting late. All right. And all I want you to do is, we have some rope. I want you to hold on to it. Yep, just like that. Don't, right there. Yep. And you don't have to jerk it or shake it or anything like that. You just stand like that. Now this is called the cut and restored rope trick. You've all seen this trick done 1,000 different times, but you've never seen it go that way a little bit. Not too far. Don't want you to fall. You guys already know what's going to happen. I'm going to cut the rope. Now, I'm going to restore it exactly the way I did in the 5th grade. Ta-da! Not very impressive. Now, this is the current state, right? Not very impressive. So what do we want to do? We want to do something more impressive? A little bit more? Okay, let's try doing this. Yeah, but it's not good enough. I think we can do better. We just have to think a little harder. What if I could do something that absolutely made sense by sliding the knot over here? Wouldn't it make sense if I untied it? It would be right there. That would make sense. However, I don't think that's good enough. I think we can do better. We have to think a little bit harder, outside of the box. How about, see, I know where the knot's going to land. What if somebody else made the knot land someplace that I couldn't determine on the rope? Now that'd be amazing. All right, who would like to volunteer? How about you, sir, in the front row? Great. Just stand up. You don't have to come up here. Stay right there. You scare me. All right. Now look, I'm going to slide the knot along the rope. You say stop whenever you like, and we'll untie it there. Stop. There? Okay. Here we go. Could have been anywhere, but he decided to do it here. So that's better. But we still haven't done the impossible. We still haven't restored the rope yet. So all we have to do is just say, Ann, you say abracadabra. Abracadabra. And the rope is completely restored. Thank you very much, Ann. Awesome. So honestly, that is the thinking process. Is we just keep on asking ourselves, can it be better? Can it be better? Can it be better? And when you think, oh, the cut and restored rope trick, can it be better? Yeah, it can be a lot better. So deep diving into reflection, character, and story development. How did I get this story? Everybody always asks me that. So I always ask the 5 whys of everything. I could do an entire speech on just how I use this book. It's true. And how I came up with it. You want to know how I came up with this mirror thing? Okay, there's a mirror in our bedroom. It's on the closet. And I had a billiard ball in my hand, and I was putting it in front of the mirror like this, and then I put my hand behind the mirror, and it vanished because I had my other hand in front of it. And I'm like, oh. And that was the impetus of it. That was the whole beginning of it. It was just doing that experiment in the mirror. So, and then I turned it into this. Now, Once I won a couple of these contests, I got a call from the Magic Castle. Now, the Magic Castle is in Hollywood, California. I've been trying to get into this unique club for the past 20 years. They called me, and there's a really interesting anecdotal story that I'll share with you. This is an exclusive club. The only way you can get a ticket is that if you know a magician or somebody who's performing in it. And I was performing in it, and the first night I was there, that's the stage I performed on, who showed up? Leah Thompson, Jason Alexander, and the guy that's on the right side of Kurt Russell in the movie The Thing is Keith David. Now, we're not allowed to take pictures, but Keith David is now a fan of my act, and Jason Alexander, he talked with me for a really long time. He's also a magician and a performer at the Magic Castle. Now, this is my first time at the castle, and these guys were all in the same show. So I'm starstruck. As a matter of fact, when Keith David was in the audience, was just talking to a friend of mine. I said, oh man, one of my favorite movies is The Thing from the 1980s. And the greatest thing is when he and Kurt Russell are talking at the end and they're going to freeze to death. And then I swear to you, on my mother's grave, I walked out and Keith David was standing in the audience as everybody was leaving and just said, I just want to shake your hand. And it was like, what? And it was really funny. So that really happened. So then, Fool Us. How did I get into on Penn Teller Fool Us? Well, while I was at the theater, the guy in the theater next to me is Sean Farquhar. Sean Farquhar, he fooled Penn Teller twice, and he also won the World Championships of Magic twice. And he was right next door, so I picked his brain, and he gave me the secret of how to get on their show. So what I did is I did a CI plan to fool Penn Teller. So I did 100 videotapings in 30 days. This was after work. My goal... No, I'm not looking at you. But I'm just saying, just don't check my time card. But my goal was to make 100 improvements in 30 days. So the idea was to film the act, make one improvement that equals 1% change. I got sick because I really got overworked, and I only reached 92, but it's still an A, and the result was I fooled Penn Teller, and these are all of my rehearsals up to 61. This is a screenshot of my YouTube channel. And of course we know what the result was. So the Penn Teller Prize was working with them. So I was shipped to Las Vegas, and I was able to work with them on their stage, and that's one of their assistants, right before she walked on stage, and that's what they call the monkey room. They call it the monkey room. So, and there's Teller. Teller is a chatterbox. He talks. Now, right when I arrived, I was setting up my act, and he walked up behind me and he goes, hello. And this is a true story. He said, I just want to thank you for coming because you're my favorite all-time fooler in all the shows that we've ever done. So that was really special to me. So as you can see, my face is booming. So we're getting close to the conclusion of this, but I wanted to show you the timeline of how continuous improvement, kind of looking like a nice flow map here. It started in July, and 30 days after my competition failure, I started the Lean and CI. Then I won TAOM 30 days later. Major changes started once I got under PJ's wing. And then the Magic Castle called. I had a major breakthrough before I went on to Penn Teller with this mirror. And then I fooled Penn Teller, and a world qualifier was the championships when I won all the awards. But the next goal was to perform in Blackpool. If you perform in Blackpool before FISM, now you're a known. It's the largest magic convention in the world, and it's at the Winter Garden Theatre in the UK. And the Winter Garden Theatre is the largest theatre in Europe. 3,500 seats, and that's the stage. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I had 2 performances for 7,000 people, and that was my biggest audience. And all that was just from, working with PJ. But I had a lot of people patting me on the back because I won all these awards. And I didn't know that there was a farther, deeper dive that I needed to go. And this guy, the great Kaplan, was at the show, and he said, your act was just okay. I wanted to like it more. Something is missing. I was disappointed. He thought it sucked. So he wrote me a laundry list like this long of all the things that he thought was wrong with the act. And this was the award-winning act. So I went back to all my friends and I put in a lot of time. Now this is what I got from Ken. When you do the infinity model, if you do a lot of continuous improvement, when something like this happens, a problem happens, you have what? You have time. You have time. So in February this happened, and I improved the act literally 100% since then, because this act is nowhere near what it was in the competition. And so I sent a video to Dave. Now he loves it. So working hard. Application in Lean and CI created a masterpiece. You can see all the iterations here. From the purple guy to the brown suited guy to here we are up there with the mirror was on the table, and then I took the mirror off the table and it turned into something completely different. So this is the cool part. This is where people say the universe speaks to you and all that. Well, the two guys that I modeled and I said, these are the people that I want to shoot for. At the very beginning, I chose them randomly. So here's some quotes. It's no great mystery to perform your act in front of an audience 1,000 times before you go to the World Championships. Lance Burton. Add one more bit and you'll be great in the World Championships. That's from Veronin. And guess what? They were at that performance when I won. Those two guys. I don't know if that means anything, but it blew my mind. So what I did is I took his advice, scheduled 1,000 rehearsals, 33 performances, and I added a bit. So hard work and the unintentional benefits. This is what I want to leave you with. The application of Lean and CI to everything that you do, from make it magic or make it your job, anything, you will have unintentional benefits. For me, it was winning the Best of Convention, the Magic Castle, the first national TV spot in fooling Penn Teller, Blackpool, England, setting a record win at FISM qualifying for FISM, and all I wanted to do was just score at least 70 points and qualify to go to Korea. And all of this happened because I applied all of these techniques. So, unintentional benefits await you. Go out and get lean. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.
We're done. Thank you. Go drink.